When you're actually trying to recruit someone for an open position, you're actually trying to sell a product. The product is that open position.
Wouldn't it be just so crappy if you get to like the 50th day and then you're like, I can't really go down this road anymore? If they would have set that expectation in the beginning, it just saves everybody.
If your experience as a candidate is not amazing, don't expect that it will improve once you become an employee. This is kind of like the top of their game.
Yeah.
If this is not top notch, do not expect it to improve after you become, because it's the other way around, I promise you.
It's so true. And don't you feel like this is just like the root of a deeper problem?
Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Multifamily Chronicles. Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Multifamily Chronicles. My very special guest today is Tara Samuels. Welcome to the show, Tara.
Thank you for having me. So excited.
I have so much to say about Tara. I could probably fill an episode with just talking about Tara. We're not going to do that today, okay? We're not going to do that. So I'm going to start introducing Tara, which is a great friend of mine, a very dear friend of mine, as the new Senior Vice President of Strategic Partnerships at MSB Resources. Congratulations on your new gig.
Thank you. I'm really, really excited. And I've known this company for a really long time. And so I'm really excited to now be officially part of their team. So, yay.
So, Tara, what got you inspired to pursue this opportunity, and what gets you excited most about this opportunity?
Well, I have known Brad Schwartz, the founder, for I would say maybe like a decade. And it's funny, most people know that I'm from Chicago. And I saw him come into a reverse trade show wearing this shirt that on the back it says, I love my job, do you? And I was like, who is this guy? Because I pretty much figured I knew everybody in Chicago in that market. And I went up to him and I was like, introduced myself. And I was like, how do I get one of those shirts? And he's like, you have to come work with me. And it's so funny because I feel like his tagline just evokes instant positivity, right? Like whether you've said a word to him or not, you believe that he actually loves his job. Well, I didn't even realize at that moment that he was the founder of MSB Resources. So I've kept in touch with him for a really long time. He's someone I have always respected in the multifamily industry. He's based out in Philly, so I don't get to see him very much. But when I came open to work recently, he called me and he was like, listen, I don't have this job open, but I think you'd be the perfect person for this role. He knew enough about me, my background, my passions, that he was like, let's just have a conversation and see what this could evolve to. And we just have a lot of synergies. And the biggest attraction for me was he has a team of, I want to say 15 or so people. Do you know, Adrian, that these people have been with him 17 years, 18 years, 10 years, 9 years, 12 years. And I'm like, holy cow, what is this magic sauce that this guy has in his company where he doesn't have turnover? So to me, I've worked in recruiting in the past. This is not a recruiting role for me per se, but who better to go work with than a guy who really must know what he's doing, loves his job, and who has created a sticky organization where people, they want to stay. And the highlight for me, I'm a little hokey sometimes with my stuff. I found out that Brad's birthday is the same birthday as my first mentor, Mike Fine. And Adrian, you've heard me talk a million times about Mike, how important he was. So to me, that was the sign that I needed, that this was the right move and that they have very similar leadership styles. So that's the full story.
So, Tara, tell me about your key focus areas in your new role. What are they going to be, and how do you envision building strategic partnerships at MSB?
I want to bring, this is not going to shock you. I want to disrupt the normal traditional recruiting vibe. I've been pretty public about my open to work experience. While I was talking to Brad, I still had some other opportunities I was pursuing, just making sure that I was going the right direction, right? And so I have some just really horrific stories of how I was treated as a candidate, and how we have a lot to learn, not just in the multifamily industry, but all industries. So I want to bring more of a disruptive approach to the partnerships. I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like they're so transactional, right? So I want it to be more of like transformational. So how can we do that? It's really zeroing in on how can we collaborate, really talking about their culture, not just going to fill a role, right? MSB is not that type of organization. They're not just there to like give you a warm body. They're looking at the long-term game. They want to have, just that long relationship building to where you're always thinking of them, because it might be a slow hire or a slow placement, but it's going to be the right one because we dig in to their culture. And I will actually, one of my favorite things that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be partnering with Dr. David Wyman. He is a psychologist that is good friends with Brad. He's also based out in Philly, and he's someone who really knows and can do a deep assessment on culture. So it's funny because Brad's like, I know it seems ironic that a recruiting firm would want to prevent turnover, but we have a niche that we can provide in using our relationship with Dr. David, and he can help organizations become more sticky. You and I both know this from working in the industry, not even recruiting, but we both have hired and fired people in our past. It costs way more to replace somebody than it does to keep the ones you have, just like your residents, right? Focus on the people who are there. So Dr. David and I are going to be helping to launch their workplace solutions division to really help companies understand how to create more of a sticky organization, which is basically a non-fancy way of saying, how can I keep someone from leaving, right? Let's not just focus on the ping pong tables and the free coffee and unlimited PTO. Let's dive deeper into that. So you're going to see a lot of like collaboration. I'm going to be very vocal on LinkedIn and trying to just provide some different spin on recruiting, I guess. But there's no like traditional job description. So I'm kind of making this stuff up as I go along, which is fun.
I think for most this sounds counterintuitive. Why would a service provider would educate their potential clients on things that they could do and implement so they won't hire them? But if you think about it, this is one of the most powerful things that a company could do. You will position yourselves as expert matters, and people will like to come and do business with you because you provide so much value, not because, like you said, you have some candidates. Like everybody's offering candidates. You get candidates from Indeed. You get candidates from LinkedIn. There's many ways to do it. Like the thing is, why should a potential client do business with you? I think you choose one of the most powerful reasons for them to, because you're gonna try to help them and educate them how not to lose talent, how not to use you. And that's the most powerful thing. And if occasionally that doesn't work, you're there to help them out.
100%. And I don't know if you agree with me on this, but what you said kind of sparked, you've always heard like people do business with people that they like. I actually disagree with that. I think that people do business with people that they trust. So that's one of the things that kind of sealed the deal for me, is I was like, wait a minute, Brad, let me get this straight. You're actually going to try and help companies keep their people. That's a pretty trusting position. But also, he's not full of fluff by saying, like, look at me, I have all this great culture and I have all these great employees, but my employees are turning over constantly. His people collectively have over 150 years combined experience who have been with him a long time. So if I'm going to approach any company in multifamily to help them keep their people, in my opinion, Brad's already earned the trust and paved the way in the industry. Now, listen, he's not in every single market, and there's still a lot of people that haven't heard of MSB, which is why I'm there. But I think when you build that foundation of trust like he has with his own people, then I think it puts that trust factor of like, okay, then I'm willing to talk to you and allow you to dive deeper into my culture and help me prevent turnover. So,
what are the areas in which the industry could do better when it comes to hiring, just so they won't generate, turnover? When it comes to hiring and also retaining too, like hiring and retaining, those two areas, what are the areas of opportunity that you see for multifamily?
well, I have been in the years and years and years that I've worked in and out of multifamily, even times I was working at an advertising agency. There's so many times that HR wants to send their employees a survey, which is great. However, there's a couple things about a survey that I don't like. Is number one, they're never anonymous. They always say, "Oh, it's anonymous. Don't worry, there's not going to be any retaliation for your feedback." I don't believe that. Unless it's a third party provider, even still, there might be some ways to find out, "Oh, that sounds like something Tara would say." I don't think that there's enough safe space for employees to truly share how they feel about their position, about the culture, about the company, about their career trajectory. And then let's just say you are a company that is providing those surveys, and I answer them so many times, Adrian. I've left wondering, what did you actually do with my feedback? Because there's companies who are not following up on the data that they're receiving from their people. So what happens then? I'm making assumptions that my company doesn't care about me because they've never brought it up again. I don't know the results, and I'm not seeing any action being taken on the data that I've provided. And it's not just me. Like, as you know, employees start to talk to one another and they might be like, "Hey, John, hey, Julie, did you ever hear back on that survey?" "No." "Oh, me either." "Okay, well, then why are we taking the survey?" And so I'm starting to see where the opportunity lies is to create more of a safe space, but also provide the action afterwards. And that's where MSB and Dr. David will come in, is they actually don't just take the data and hand it to you. They can create leadership workshops and all these different ways to kind of prevent the turnover by taking the data and doing something with it. So I don't know if you've ever been a part of that, but that's something that I think every industry needs to do better. And did you have another question that I missed missed answering?
If I did, I don't remember.
Okay. But huge opportunity there.
So I have this to say on what you just said, employee surveys. I worked for more than one organization that used survey services, various companies that will survey their employees and also their residents. And I was in a position to ask questions like, what's happening with these particular surveys? The answer was typically, well, they go into an inbox to a direct manager or like community manager if there were resident surveys, and they manage from there. Well, is there any oversight from a corporate standpoint? Is there any like follow up? How do we know at corporate level that the property managers are following up on those surveys? The answer was no, we didn't. There was just an assumption, was just something that was assigned to certain individuals that never did. I actually stepped in on one occasion and I said, everything that's a survey that's maintenance related has to come to me. I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna decide right, what to do. If it's a 5-star, I'm gonna congratulate the team and make a big deal out of it. If it's special note from a resident, I want to make sure that that particular employee is acknowledged for the great work that they did. I even take a gift card and hand it to them and make a big deal out of that. And if it's something with an area of improvement or something that we missed, I'm gonna make sure that there's an answer to that resident, and the answer goes ASAP. That was the experience, and we actually changed things. Like we improved significantly since I've taken that over. But it was amazing, company that manages probably like 10 to 12,000 apartment homes that will pay for a service that they wouldn't take advantage of. And like you said, advice for companies, any company, if you do surveys and you don't have a plan to follow up and follow through, you're way better off not doing any surveys.
Yep.
Because that does more damage than good. A customer, whether that's an external customer or internal, your own employee, that doesn't get a response, doesn't see that you actually did anything actionable based on
Right.
a feedback that they provided, will turn against you. How would they turn against you? I'm going to tell you, it's very simple. Their dissatisfaction will be shared, and a lot of times will be shared with a lot of people. We're
Mhm.
living in an internet era, in an era that nothing is secret. The only way to keep a secret if you don't share it with anyone. As soon as you share it with the first person, it could be there for the entire world to see. Are you willing to take that chance? If you're willing to take that chance, please remember that this is going to affect your ability to attract and retain quality employees and quality residents, right? If you're not
100%.
following up and you're not following through. So I'm in total agreement with you out there. I've seen this, and there's a huge area of opportunity for us as an industry to actually, that's a gold mine. There is a gold mine. A very few people take time to respond, especially when they're unhappy. There's studies being made, like most people's probably like 6 out of 7, from what I remember, a study from a few years ago, 6 out of 7 will become somebody else's customer without telling you a thing. So you
Yeah.
will lose them without having the chance to save them.
Hmm.
So that 1 out of 6 or 7 that actually takes the time to provide critical feedback for you to
Yeah.
ignore it, it's completely counterproductive for the business, and it's
Yeah. I
very
mean,
not good at all.
you know what, too? Everything you say is so spot on. But one of the things, too, that it made me think in some of the past companies I've worked for where I didn't receive a response, I kept thinking to myself, like, okay, that must have just, that survey must have been like a KPI for that individual. They had to check a box and be like, well, I surveyed the employees. And so I did my part. But if you're not doing anything with it, then it just, yeah, I mean, we could talk about this subject all day long, but you know what it's kind of like? It's kind of like when you post a Google review on a business and you didn't have a savory experience, whatever that is, a restaurant, a shopping, whatever, and they don't respond. Feels almost the same way. It's like, okay, apparently you have enough business out there that you don't care that my experience was subpar. You don't need to take the time to monitor and respond to my review. It feels almost like the same thing.
I don't disagree with you at all. I think you're spot on right there. And businesses got to do better.
They do.
They're going to have to do better. What's your plan for, helping your company growing their footprint? How do you try to approach? Before we start recording, by the way, I was mentioning that the multifamily industry has a huge opportunity. There
Hmm.
is no even the national companies that have actually a national footprint that they could pretty much provide candidates all over the country.
Yeah.
Don't cover even probably like not even 1% of all the available opportunities within the
Mhm.
industry. So to me, that's a huge deal. Like there's just so much room for improvement. What are some things that you're planning on bringing to the table to actually take advantage of this amazing opportunity on a structure that's already being created with very long tenure employee and a company that's very respectable, from the company owner to everybody that works there?
I think to me, the low hanging fruit is always the people you currently have worked with, right? So they're a small company. They don't have vast resources necessarily to go back and touch and talk to every single client or candidate. It's something that I'm be passionate about. So one of my first things kind of coming in is going to be, after I get to know my own team and build trust with them, it's going to be literally picking up the phone and calling people who have worked with MSB either as a candidate, getting some of the intel and the feedback on why they chose MSB in the first place. How did they even find the company? What was their experience like? I would love to know, is there anything we could have done better? And then same thing with the clients. And then when you're on with both those candidates and the clients, what better time than to ask for a referral, right? So the great, it sounds like we had a great partnership. Who can you think of, or who comes to mind that we can help? So really just kind of tapping into like the current Rolodex that they have. And then also the mentor group. So my multifamily mentor matchmaking group, we talked about trust earlier in this conversation. I've established trust with a number of people in the multifamily industry, it's always going to be easier for me to start with people who already know Tara, right? Like I will be happy to cold call a company or, just bring up in conversation with someone I've just met. But I definitely want to tap into the folks who know me in the mentor group and just get their, not to poach them, but really to just kind of get their feedback on how was their hiring process, what, like kind of some of the things that you're asking me about with opportunity, and then how they could see using our services to help their organization become more sticky. That's one of the things I love is they keep it super casual. And I'm like, a sticky organization. I never thought of it that way. So I just want to tap into the trust factor all the way around, right? You've got to start with the people you're going to be working with. They need to know that they can trust you. Brad can say all day long, oh, she's great, but they need to hear it for themselves. So building that trust and rapport, and then definitely just going down the line and digging through all of the people we've touched. And you know what? Also, Adrian, what about the people who we didn't place? Those are prime people to call for data. What happened in that experience? Because some people just don't take the time to find out that raw feedback. So that's kind of like my initial game plan.
I want to go back a little bit, Tara, to your open to work journey. And you share some very impactful stories from your personal experience and a few others.
Yeah.
What was this period like for you? And how did it shape your approach to career growth and networking?
You and I have a very similar passion where we love to give back to people, to help others. And so initially, my approach was I'm going to be real and take a minute and just kind of process that I'm open to work and just take some time to regroup, to journal, to self reflect. And then as soon as I kind of like felt good about where I was like, you know what? I feel like the best thing to do is to go help someone else find a job before I find mine. And I know that might sound asinine, but I felt like I needed to put out like good karma because I also felt like I could learn from others and hearing their experiences. So one of the first things I did was I created a hiring and candidate spotlight call, not a fancy name, but I wanted to provide a platform for other people who were going through a really struggling journey in finding their next job. Like, I'm like, how can I create a community where other people who are open to work can just kind of come together for an hour and share stories, but also I wanted to use it as like an audition reel. So I was like, okay, everyone that joins, I'm going to put some time and effort into this. I'm going to create a presentation. I had specific questions that I asked everybody. I had a format. It was structured. But I'm like, use this as a moment to audition. And so the first one went really well. So they're like, are you going to do another one? And I'm like, yeah, I guess I'll do another one. And then now I'm going to do another one. So I'm going to do another one in a couple of days. And to me, Adrian, that was like the best thing I could do was just get out of my own way, help other people, because I knew eventually something would just stick, right? And Brad came from my own network, so that was really helpful. And I thought to myself, if I can help these people build their network, because it takes work, then that maybe could lead them to their next opportunity. But I mean, other than that, I've had some really unsavory experiences. Do you want me to touch on those?
Absolutely. I think that we all tend to be told always to be political, right? About things, like not really talk about things the way they are. Without this respect, we could be very respectful and professional and still share the not so great experiences. So use them as learning opportunities. So please do share.
So this is not unusual, but typically when you have a network of people, you want to tap into them, right? So I had so many people come to me and say, how can I help? Which was fantastic. And I really appreciated that. But ironically, some of the worst experiences I had actually came from a close friend introducing me to that person. And what do I mean by that? They had a very casual tone, which is really nice up front, but I think they used that introduction as a way to kind of treat me like a commodity, right? Like just a number. There were times where they didn't show up to their call that they scheduled. I showed up, prepared, ready to go. I treated it very as if I didn't know the person. No follow-up, no, like just the entire process was, how does it go? Overpromise, underdeliver. It was completely all about that. And so I felt stung in quite different ways, just because it's like, oh my gosh, well, so and so introduced us. We have so many things in common, but yet you're treating me like crap. And boy, that's not cool. I even had a couple of these folks apologize in a text message and then say, can we reschedule? I'm so sorry. And I'm like, okay, I should probably give another chance. And then they wouldn't show up to that one. And I'm like, oh my God, like what is happening? And then I just posted about this recently on LinkedIn. Candidates talk to one another, and you and I both know how small the multifamily industry is. And it's so funny because there was someone who was really candid with me, and he shared a story about how he started off with this C-suite person. And at first it was great, but then, the drill. They don't follow up. They take weeks to respond. That delay puts a lot of uncertainty in the candidate. You don't realize how much of a mental game looking for a job, how exhausting that can be, and how you tend to start going after your own self-worth. I'm not good enough. Why didn't they choose me? Why aren't they answering me? Well, come to find out, this person, after talking with the C-suite, finally got a response. And they said to him, oh, sorry, I thought that I emailed you, but the email I was going to send you was stuck in my drafts folder. And he was like, okay. Like, first of all, you're one of the C-suites of this company. That's a very bad sign. And he was going to directly work for this person. And he literally was like, well, I had already bailed out and taken my name out of the audition, out of the interviewing, because I could tell that this isn't a company I want to work with if they're not going to even respond to the people who are interviewing. Come to find out, another person that I know interviewed for the same position, same thing happened to her. Like, what? So it was just a number of those types of things. And it was just disheartening, to be honest, Adrian. It was just really disheartening. And these calls that I've been having, these hiring and candidate spotlight calls, people are opening up to me, even just like on the side, and they're sharing their stories. And they're like, I'm so glad that you're helping us, because we feel helpless. So that's a little bit of like the highlight reel.
I always used to say this: if your experience as a candidate is not amazing, don't expect that it will improve once you become an employee.
So
This is kind of like the top of their game that they show you during the recruiting and interviewing process. If this is not top notch, do not expect it to improve after you become, because it's the other way around, I promise you.
It's so true. And don't you feel like this is just like the root of a deeper problem? I don't even know how to pinpoint it exactly, but just like the respect, the lack of respect, the lack of professionalism. People are okay. It's like when you dump your boyfriend or girlfriend, right? First of all, at least say the words, and then give them some closure, and maybe don't be hurtful, but at least give them something to walk away and know, okay, that chapter is closed. Let me move on. The things that always get me through these moments are my 3 favorite words. Rejection is redirection. That helps me not take it personal. But it's not just the multifamily industry, because we're not unique snowflowers or snowflakes in this regard, right? Other industries have this same issue, but the lack of professionalism on top, and then recruiters, if you're using a recruiter. But I will say, this is not a bash on recruiting services or C-suite or whatever. It's a two-way street, right? So the candidates, please also show the same respect. And if for some reason you don't want to pursue that opportunity anymore, let that person, whoever is in part of that hiring process, let them know that you're no longer interested, so they don't waste their time. So it definitely is a two-way street. But I just felt it recently, where I just felt like I was, when was the last time you went to a deli and they're calling your number? That's what I felt like. I'm like, what am I, like a side of ham?
Yeah, probably at times, candidates are seen as less than that.
Mm-hmm.
You said something, rejection is redirection. This led me to another thought that I have, and I feel very strongly about it.
Yeah.
Recruiting is sales.
Mhm.
I encourage all the hiring managers and recruiters to approach recruiting as a salesperson. When you're actually trying to recruit someone for an open position, you're actually trying to sell a product. The product is that open position, right? So if you're in a mindset of selling, you should always be selling. Always sell. On a candidate end, it's also they're part of the process. That's part of the selling process. It's a sell for them too. And it's also about finding that perfect match or like the ideal match between or the overlap. And when there's enough, overlap, then means that probably it's a good, it's gonna be a good deal.
Yeah.
Uh, but when you get rejected, this is what I wanted to get. When you get rejected, therefore redirected, it's qualifying your leads.
Yeah.
It's how you qualify your leads in sales. Who is a qualified lead? Well, this employer that rejected me is definitely not a qualified lead. They're off my list, so I could focus on the million others. They're out there and they're hiring for someone like me that they
Mhm.
could use my talent. I don't see it as a negative, although at times, at the very moment, like it's very frustrating and rejection, it's not easy. I get it. I've been getting so much better since I started my own journey because this is a daily basis occurrence. Like most of my days dealing with rejection, with people saying no to me, and it's part of the process. Like it's not necessary that I'm doing something wrong. That might be the case. I'm
Yeah.
about to learn and like improve from it, but the bottom line is the point is here: you get rejected, you qualify your leads, you understand that like this is part of the game. The same goes with recruiting a candidate. Of course, it doesn't mean that you should accept or like be good with someone that's treating you not with the utmost respect. You shouldn't settle for that, and you should be speaking about it and share it with others too, so they won't end up in the same position. But at the same time, I see it as a blessing. It's a huge blessing, one of the biggest ones, because you cross that person, you cross that organization off your list. So therefore, you shrink your list is not a bad thing. It's
Mhm.
actually going niche to actually finding your tribe, organizations and people that you want to be around. You want to spend your career, most of your life with for the time being, because the reality is we spend more time at work than we spend with our families at home.
That's so true. And you know what's funny is I love that you talk about how it's like sales because it makes me think of the times that I have sold in a traditional sales capacity where you come to a discovery call or a presentation, whatever that is. You should always have a clear agenda. You should have a timeline, and everybody should kind of understand what the expectations are going to be. Like if we're spending 45 minutes together, that person on the other end needs to understand how are those 45 minutes going to be spent. It's the same thing in interviewing and recruiting. Tell them exactly what your hiring process is. That's one thing that I craved recently being open to work. I asked the questions, but it would be really nice if the employer or the hiring manager would be more proactive to say, okay, Tara, here's our process. It's a 5-step process. First step, you can expect to spend 20 minutes doing this. And then the second step, we will have a decision on if you move to round 2 by, the 4th day. If you can put in a structured agenda like that together, my gosh, that would save so much heartache, so much assumption, so much hurt, just mental defeating that takes place in your mind. That's one of the things I think, as you talked about sales, that's where companies can start to do better right away. Have an agenda. Tell them flat out it's a 5-step process or a 3-step process or whatever it is. Because if right away like, well, geez, so it sounds like you're not going to make a decision for 90 days. That's not really my timeline. Let's go ahead and part ways now. Wouldn't it be just so crappy if you get to like the 50th day and then you're like, I can't really go down this road anymore? If they would have set that expectation in the beginning, it just saves everybody. So, like, I love that you said sales. That's what I thought of it immediately. So, that could be some actionable feedback and something I want to take to MSB. If they're not doing that, that's something we can implement.
Tara, you mentioned your experience with like helping others finding their next best thing before you look to find yours. And I want to ask you now, how did you mentor people that reached out to you? Because you shared that there were several reaching out to you about their experiences. How did you mentor them? How did you guide them through this process, through this journey? people that were navigated through the same thing as you did, being open to work, looking for the next thing.
There's actually a story, I won't use his name, but there's a story of someone who, because there was that trust built, someone that came from the mentorship group. I've known him for a while, and he called me and he was like, listen, I recently got laid off. I'm in my own head. I keep getting rejection letters. And I was like, oh, that's actually great that you're actually getting rejection letters, because some people don't even send the rejection letter. But he was like, well, I'm hearing you're too experienced, you're overqualified, you're too expensive. And so he just got to a point where he just was so mentally defeated. And he literally said to me, he's like, this entire process is so shitty. I can't seem to move past it. And I said to him, I was like, wait a minute, I'm on your LinkedIn page. I don't see that you're listed as open to work. And he was like, oh yeah, I don't want to put the open to work banner on. And I'm like, why? And he's like, because I'm embarrassed. Like I don't want people to know that I lost my job. And I was like, oh my gosh, please, in this moment, and Adrian, this is ironic coming from me because this is something I work on every day. I'm not very good at it, but I'm getting better. I was like, you have to be vulnerable. You have to allow your network to help you. And if you put that open to work banner on, that will at least give your network some indication that you're available. And then the people who really want to help you will reach out and say, how can I help you find your next opportunity? Who can I introduce you to? How are you doing? Even just a mental check-in. How are you doing? And so it was funny because he was like, oh my God, you mentored me. And I'm like, no, I didn't. And he's like, yes, you did. And I was like, really? And so I had to remember that when it came time for me to put the banner on. I think we need, as somebody, maybe you can do this because you have gone through this and you've got such a great audience, but somebody needs to do a podcast or like a LinkedIn Live on the mental repercussions of putting that banner up on your LinkedIn. Everyone takes it differently, but it was really cool to watch somebody else go through that and help them not feel so crappy about it. And he found a new job. After he put the open to work banner on, within a couple of days, he got an interview and he was like, thank you. So, yeah.
That's a great idea. And it's already like on my mental to do projects to do list
Yeah.
to do a live about this. Here's what I wanted to say myself about the open to work banner. It's the best thing that happened to me in my recent career. And here's why. People might not realize, but when you advertise to the world that you're a free agent, there's so many people that might have followed you, might have admired you, might have wanna, ask you to come work for them. But I think out of respect and out of the fact that they're thinking poaching is not okay, they probably restrain themselves and did not reach out. When Also, when you become yourself a free agent, you will find what your true worth is.
That's true.
Because the free market kicks in. And this is the most beautiful thing that could happen to you as a candidate. I mean, it comes in probably secondary what you think that your worth is, but when you put yourself on a market, you're finding out exactly like what the market is willing to pay and what they're willing to offer you as a candidate. So I encourage you all, if you're unemployed, do not hesitate for a second. Put that open to work banner up immediately for reasons that I mentioned. And there's one other. LinkedIn as a platform is pushing out this type of announcements, this type of posts, because it's kind of like we're trying to help people get jobs. Like that's one of the things that they don't necessarily monetize on. The open to work posts they're pushed extra compared with regular posts on LinkedIn. I could tell you that I've seen on others. It's been my personal experience, overwhelming exposure from LinkedIn and also overwhelming response from my network. Now, I know that there'll be some watching this conversation saying, yeah, but you're well networked and that doesn't work for you. Yeah, but it could work in the same proportion for someone that has a smaller network. Yeah, they might not get the same response as Adrian or Tara do, but then they will get a proportional response with the size of their network. But they will get something. And let me tell you something else. There are a ton of people out there willing to comment, share, and help you get a job. Even
Mhm.
people that can actually offer you a job currently, if they know that you're looking. There's just so much willingness. There's so much positivity about what happened. And strangers, I want to share that probably the last 2 or 3 jobs that I had, they were recommendations via LinkedIn. They were all thanks to LinkedIn for me, all of them.
Mhm.
My last 3 or 4 jobs that I had. And a lot of times they came from people that I've never had a contact with previously. They just learned that I was looking and they actually went out of their way to connect me with. They weren't even the hiring manager. They went out of their way to connect me with a hiring manager that was hiring someone that they thought I could be that person for the company. So how amazing is that?
And I think one of the reasons why people probably did that for you is because you have put yourself out there so visible over the years to always help other people, that they trusted you, that if they made an introduction or if they, just helped you with your connections, they trusted that you would do right by them. And this is why I wanted to start a call to help others, is because the more you can put out there that you're willing to be a helpful person, the more people will trust you, because by the time you needed your network, they stepped up, right? Because you've always stepped up. And so that's just a testament to how you've put yourself out there over the years.
It's so true, Tara. I couldn't say it better. And I thank you for mentioning, because I'm only saying this because I want for others to see what's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Not as a, I guess, self-promotion type of deal. Hey, here's who I am. I'm no different than anyone else out there. The only difference probably between me and most out there is that I choose to make this a very conscientious effort to put myself out there, to to be willing to be, I guess, judged for what I believe, for who I am. But I could promise you that what you see is what you get on LinkedIn. But also, I dedicated time to help others in any situation that that was possible. I
Mm-hmm.
can't say that 100%, but I still dedicate up to this day as much time as I can spare to help others get their next opportunity. And by helping others, this karma, works in he never fails. He never fails. When you try to put
Yeah.
good out into the world, there'll be good coming back to you tenfolded. Not in a transactional way that I help you and you will help me. And
Right.
most times for me, it happened that I help people that couldn't pay me back, couldn't return the favor. I strongly believe that because I help them, there was help from others that noticed or heard, or sometimes didn't even notice. It was just like simply karma kicking in
Mm-hmm.
at the highest level. Karma came back and said, because you did this for other people, there'll be an opportunity for you from somewhere else, unrelated. It happens so many times to me. I encourage you, whenever you could do good, just do good without expecting anything in return. If you're sticking to the transactional model, you will limit yourself and the opportunities that you could have access to
100%.
dramatically.
And you're always consistent, which really helps people get used to seeing you. And I think too, one thing that you and I thrive on, and we've done this together. And as a matter of fact, at lunch yesterday, we were talking about this, and I was like, Adrian and I need to do this again. You and I try so hard to just give people a chance to have their voice heard. So we're overdue for a walk and talk. um,
Yes.
to just get people out there to feel comfortable to just talk about what's on their mind. And I think that that's where, you have a large following on LinkedIn, but I think it's grown simply because you're really natural about it. You're not this scripted guy, but you're consistent. And so people look forward to it. And you have your hashtag, your keep walking. That's why people turn to you, right? And that's why people are willing to help you, is because you're every twist and turn, you're looking to help other people. So it's like, it's immediately what I thought of doing when I found myself open to work. And you're right. Like, if we can just continue to put good karma out there, it will return for sure.
it has worked for me. I don't think that I'm a special case. It's really the norm. I encourage everyone to do that. Tara, I'd love to go to another topic that's near and dear to your heart, and that is mentorship. You have done the most amazing jobs that anyone ever did in our space, in our industry. You have started a mentorship group. By the way, how long ago did you start it?
January of 2023, which ironically, nationally was declared by President Biden like National Mentorship Month. Had no idea of like timing it that way. But yeah, January of 2023, we're over 500 members now. And I will tell you, it was a hot mess. As you know, because you were literally one of the first 5 people in the group. But yeah, so January 2023, and it's growing like crazy.
Well, this is a testament that, great work for a great cause, for a great passion that you have, could turn into something that's significantly impactful, not just for the members, but for the an entire industry in general. Having to go kind of the same route with a different passion of mine for the
Mhm.
industry, I could tell you that, this 500 plus number is like nothing short of impressive. For those that, you haven't tried that before, I could promise you that that's like an incredible number for a niche like our industry is, right? Because we're a very large industry, but also in a big scheme of things, I think compared with other industry, we're still kind of niche out there, and
Yeah.
it's very hard to find your tribe. Wherever your tribe is in this industry is very hard. So it takes a lot of time. I've learned this over the years to get to the right people that have common interest, the same interest with you, to create any type of group, any type of affiliation. So kudos to you for doing that. I could tell you from personal experience that, you know, for those of you that might not realize, it's just a incredible amount of work to build it and to keep up with it with a community and be able to show up every day and serve your community. It's not just about creating it and create a platform for people to mingle and like build their tribe for them, but it's also serving the community, and you've done an amazing job at it, so congrats.
Thank you. And you were the first person to recognize the group with a podcast. So your platform, when we had our group podcast, it was amazing. I appreciate how much time and effort you've put to highlight this group on your platform. It's a passion project, but to be honest, it started out of frustration, not really inspiration. People are like, "Oh, you must have been so inspired." And I'm like, I was frustrated. I was frustrated that we didn't have a group like this in our industry, because everyone talks about mentorship, but no one knows how to find it, right?
Well, I'm always in to support a great cause, and yours is an amazing one. And unique, believe it or not, I guess, companies tried here and there, their attempts to, create like programs and everything, but I haven't seen anything that's done at a industry level, right? And,
Mhm.
and that's impactful as you did. So I never seen anything, period, like that's mentorship related at an industry level. So Tara, next, share with us what's your vision for the future for your mentorship group. How do you envision this group evolve and serve their members and grow?
First of all, I need to get out of my own way. Because what do I mean by that? So I do a lot of reflection and humbled where people like you and so 500 plus other people have come to support. But where I need to kind of get out of my own way is the group is growing so rapidly. 75% of the group comes, the new members come by way of referral, which that's the best compliment, right? But I have a committee that I have formed back in February who I've not tapped into to really help me kind of take the country and make it regional so that like everyone that joins from the Northeast has a few folks in the Northeast that they can lean on from this group to have more calls, more check-ins, things like that. So one of the things is we're in the process of, it's been a long build, but we're getting the website going. That's in process. It's under construction right now. So once the website's done, that will help me fall into other stages. So the three, like people always ask me, like, how would you describe the group? Well, in 3 words: empower, connect, and thrive. So I wanted to create a place where people feel empowered. So you've been on so many of the mentor meet and greet calls. My main mission is to continue allowing people to, number one, have their voice heard, but also to empower them to lead a meet and greet call. So we have somebody from the group steps up and teaches something that they're passionate about. It could be about LinkedIn. It could be about New Year's resolutions. It can be authenticity. Like, we've done so many things. So I want to make sure to continue to tap into the members and allow them to feel comfortable to step up and empower themselves to teach others. And I want to always make sure that the theme of the group is that they have a safe place to do it. I want to provide connection. So that's one of the things. And then just really helping people thrive. Wherever they are in their stage of life is, how can I help you thrive in that stage? Speaking of open to work, one thing I do kind of secretly on the side is anytime I see someone open to work, I message them in LinkedIn privately, and I'll say, hey, I'm not guaranteeing you a job by any means, but I want to provide you a community that's going to be supportive and helpful, because, and now I know firsthand how shitty it is to be open to work sometimes. Yes, it opens new chapters, but I want them to have a community where they feel safe. So I just encourage people like, hey, even if you don't have a job, come join this mentorship community. So there's going to be a podcast at some point using the existing members. Knock on wood, a conference in 2026 is my intention. I'm hoping we get there. But I really want to tap into the members of the committee who stepped up and said, hey, Tara, how can I help you? I haven't really leaned on them, and that's my fault. Oh, and then I have to say, we have a goal to get to 600 members by 2024, by the end of 2024. So we're at 514, I think, last time I checked. So we're getting there. We still have a couple of months and we'll get there.
Hopefully many will see this episode and they'll sign up for your group if they haven't become a member yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, you know what? Let me add a caveat. Sure. I have not done this really well. I want to just be clear. If you join the group and you're not ready to be a mentor and you're not ready to be a mentee, and you're like, I just am not at that space right now, but I want to be part of the community, join. That's why getting the website up and running and having that messaging very clear is, I was like, oh gosh, I didn't really do a good job of telling people that. Some people were resistant. They're like, I've heard of your community, but I'm not really ready to mentor or be mentored yet. And I'm like, damn, I really need to do better, because join anyway. So you could at least be part of the calls, the conversation, the meet and greets, the conference recaps. Like, we have so much that we do as a group. Tonight we have an after dark call where we're going to, no recordings, and we're just going to literally talk about what's on our mind. But so just, even if you're not ready to mentor or be mentored, join the group anyway, because it's a supportive community. So sorry, I had to get that out there.
It's great that you did. Next, Tara, I want to go to another passion project of yours, Project 66. Tell us about how it started. What does it mean?
Yeah.
And then tell us about the next journey, Project 66 2.0.
I'm laughing because you were sitting with us at lunch yesterday when we were talking about this project, and it's just, let me tell you how it kind of came to fruition. So, like a lot of people during COVID, I'm so hardwired, like any human, to have connection. And so because we're all staying at home more during that time, we didn't have a lot of the in-person stuff. I turned to books to try, which is ironic because I don't really read. I don't love I have ADHD. And so like, I'll pick up a book and 3 months, or see, I can't even talk. 3 pages into it, I'll be like, I'm bored. But for some reason, Atomic Habits by James Clear really resonated with me. So I read this book, and simultaneously in the background at home, my husband, who's super vulnerable and really good at vulnerability, was saying to me, like, Tara, you really have to be more vulnerable. Your self-talk sounds terrible. Like, I would say things like, I'm stupid, or I'm fat, or I'm whatever, right? And he's like, you're not really saying a lot of positive things about yourself. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess you're right. So I was like, you know what? I'm so inspired by Atomic Habits. This is what I'm going to do. I need to publicly put something out on LinkedIn for accountability. If I were to just journal about this, Adrian, I probably wouldn't have had the same success or the same like self-awareness or aha moments. So the project was literally, James Clear says that it takes 66 days to form a habit. There's different studies out there that say different numbers, but I believe him. I'm like, okay, 66 days. So for 66 straight days, I posted on LinkedIn what was going on up here, which was raw and unfiltered and unsavory. I would literally post it. Sometimes I would have a picture with it. And then in that same post, I would reframe it. And that's like, okay, if I think I look fat, then I'm going to reframe it into something positive. And then I'm going to create a word for that day. I did this for 66 straight days. And by like day 9, I was doubting everything. I was like, this is so dumb. I'm sitting there telling myself it's stupid. But then when I got to the halfway point, I felt not fully transformed, but I was like, oh my gosh, it's actually becoming difficult to come up with negative things. Well, fast forward to the 66th day, I felt like a new person. I felt rejuvenated. I felt like my self-talk was just better. Naturally, things at home were better because we weren't arguing as much because I wasn't being so like degrading. But I wanted to put it out. A lot of people messaged me and they're like, I had some haters about it who were like, why are you doing this on LinkedIn? I'm like, because I just really want to put it publicly out there because I think other people are probably going through what I'm going through. And then some people were like, oh my God, thank you for doing this. I'm feeling the same way. Well, I had such success with it. And I was like, I'm transformed. Well, now it's 2 years later. I'm realizing I'm in that headspace again. So I'm calling it 2.0. And I'm choosing to relaunch this on September 16th. This is so funny. I heard this from Mel Robbins recently on one of her podcasts. She said September is the most productive month to make a change in your life. So that's why I chose September. And I'm hoping that this time people will join me. So Project 66, the original, was just me. I'm really hoping to inspire others to reframe their self-talk and just change it to something more positive, become more vulnerable. And then this time kind of have a buddy and a support system. So I'll have a sign-up link for people who want to join me. And so that's it. Like it was really just a project of how can I improve who I am and how I think about myself. What's going to be a little bit different this time is I'm going to use probably a lot more video. Last time I sometimes would include a picture, sometimes I wouldn't. It would just be text. But I think, you know me, I love to be using videos. So I'll probably include some video and it's going to be super raw. So that's it. So I'm coining it Project 66 2.0.
I can't wait for that to come out, Tara. For reasons of time, right? Because we don't have enough of it. We could have spent easily here 2-3 hours just to scratch the surface on things that we have to talk about. But closing of this particular episode, I want to give you the opportunity to share some final thoughts for this time with the audience, and maybe a segue into our next episode.
Adrian, there's so much going on in my head. Don't be afraid to be a disruptor. And what I mean by that is don't be afraid to like kind of go against the grain, push the status quo, speak up for your self-worth, speak up for yourself. So like with regards to our conversation on open to work, if something's not working for you, speak up, own it. Don't just be a victim in the process. Follow, like you and I have had several conversations about silent mentorship. What I'll say about that subject is please, everybody who has a platform, please remember that other people are following you and may never, ever tell you that you inspired them to make a change. So always be positive and cognizant of what you're putting out there and that's something our group is going to be talking about more is the premise of silent mentorship. We have a responsibility, right? As people who, I don't care if you're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever it is, YouTube, please make sure that you're being responsible for your content and hopefully positive and inspiring others, because there's so many people who have followed Adrian and probably will never tell him that, like, hey, Adrian, because of this, you inspired me to make a change in my life. Be open to being more vulnerable. I am so much a work in progress in this. So I look forward to hopefully having some cheerleaders and champions with Project 66 with me this time. So I'm not going on that journey alone, but I guess that's kind of where I would leave everything. And join the mentor group, please. Like, it's an important movement. I'm calling it a movement because it's so important to, if you can just help one other person in your life, I think that's what it's all about, right? That power of connection and power of helping others.
I love all of this, Tara. Thank you. Thank you for being a friend. Thank you for being here today. I can't wait to get this out into the world, and I can't wait to get you back here soon, very soon. We have about 80% of the questions that I wanted to ask you still pending out there. So we made a good progress. 20% is good.
We did. And you get to, by the time we talk next, you'll be able to know the results of Project 66 2.0. So we can also kind of dive into that.
Fantastic. Tara, you're always welcome here, as you know. I can't wait to get you back here in a few months and to continue this amazing conversations.
Appreciate you.
Everybody, I'm Adrian Danila, your host. Thank you so much for spending your day with us here, an hour of your day. We hope to get you back here soon. Have an amazing day. Take care.